So when you're looking at a cryptocurrency exchange in terms of, who do you want to work with and how, who do you want to, basically use as your trading platform, there's a couple of key things to look for in terms of deciding what exchange to go for. So let's take a look at that here. So a couple things, and really the first most important thing to look for, actually two important things, number one and number two is, does it support the cryptocurrencies that you want to trade, right? Not all cryptocurrencies are listed on all exchanges. The most popular ones like Bitcoin and Ethereum, you're pretty much going to find in most exchanges, if not all of them. But some of the lesser known coins that you might be interested in, if they're not being traded or not available to you, then you might want to pass on an exchange. You want to trade what interests you, right? And that they have a large amount of choices maybe that you can choose from as far as different cryptocurrencies that you can trade is a nice advantage for many exchanges. Also, does it support the fiat currency that you want to use, that you might use to initial fund your, let's say, your trading account, with whether it's dollars or rupees or pounds or euros, that money that ports in, that you bring in, that you'll then convert, let's say, into cryptocurrency, and then trade with it, that it supports that, right? So that it supports the type of money you want to use. And a big part of that is that supporting the country that you live in. And a lot of times, if you go into an exchange and it doesn't support the country you live in, you'll just immediately get a pop-up and it'll say, it seems you live outside the ABC exchange, country, whatever, or approved countries, please look at a different exchange or this might not be for you. Usually there'll be a pop-up for that warning you like, hey, you don't want to sign up here, it's not going to work out. But you also want to look at, your due diligence too and make sure that the exchange is supporting your country too. A lot of times you can just search on the web page, it'll list, countries are supported at the very bottom where they have a lot of detailed stuff. You can usually find a link there as far as finding that, or just Google search, exchange name and country supported. You can usually find it that way too. So it supports the fiat money that you want, your country, and the cryptocurrency you want too. And then also look at the exchange in terms of, okay, the strength of the exchange itself. You want to look at like market cap of the exchange, and you can see these total market caps. We'll show you some examples here in a moment. In market cap, again, it's the price of a cryptocurrency times the circulating supply or the number of coins or tokens that are out there. And so for an exchange, it's the total market cap and the total prices altogether. And some exchanges are very, very big and some are very, very small. Very big ones are very established, lots of people trading at. A lot more security around that's built in there because it gets so much in there, and certainly a lot more liquidity if you're on a big exchange trading things versus, let's say, on a very small exchange in terms of, your transactions might not happen as quickly, or you might have less choices around them. And you also want to look at some other kind of mundane things like the initial investment methods. Do you have to bring in crypto only, or could you use fiat currency to fund your initial account? Especially if you're getting started, this is the first time, you don't have crypto money. So, how you initially fund that from like a bank transfer, someplace even allowed to use credit cards, and there's extra fees usually around that. So look at that, but how do you initially invest it? And also with cryptocurrency, there might be some verification requirements too that are part of that. They're verifying that you are you and you live in this country. So there might be some things where they're going to look for that, and you'll see that with different exchanges, verifying that you're a real person and not some scammer or something like that. And then lastly, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail on this here, is fees. Fees can make a big difference in terms of who you want to go with in terms of exchange. And there's a lot of different fees out there, and it can get kind of confusing. So let's talk a little bit about fees, because that's what's going to kind of erode some of your profits, because these transactions may have fees associated with them. So let's talk about some of the fees you can maybe encounter when you're looking at and evaluating different cryptocurrency exchanges. One of the fees that you would see would be a trading fee. The actual, when you conduct a trade, you get charged a fee type of trade or type of fee. And there's what's called maker and taker. So a lot of times you'll see them listed as different fees for makers versus takers. Sometimes they're exactly the same. And sometimes they might be a little bit less in cost if you're, let's say, like a maker. So the idea of the difference between them is that, when you place an order at the market price for, let's say, some crypto, and it gets filled immediately. You say, I want to buy this, it gets filled immediately. You are considered a taker, and that's a different fee structure. When you place an order which is not immediately matched to an existing order, it's kind of sitting out there and it's placed in the order book waiting to be filled, and waiting for basically another customer that places an order that matches yours, and then you have that agreement and you have that trade, then you are considered a maker. The idea is not immediately filled once you place it. You got to wait a little bit for somebody to match up with you. So then you're called a maker. Makers are good. They help build the market. So, sometimes they'll get a discount on that for being a maker instead of a taker. And then if you have the sometimes unusual situation, sometimes not, that if you place an order where it's partially matched immediately, you pay a taker fee for that portion. And if the remainder of the order is placed on the order book as not immediately matched, then you're considered a maker order. So you might have it where your fees might be split on an order because of whether it's filled immediately or not. To give you an example, this is from Coinbase as an exchange, as an example, and you can certainly look up their current fees. This lists their current fees, but they can change at any time, and how it might look when you look at other exchanges as well. This is just an example. And you can see they have different, prices or different fee costs, whether you're a taker or a maker. Now, if you're in this example, under 10,000 US, you'd be paying 0.50 for each one. In fact, it's the same until you start spending, let's say, $50,000 to $100,000. If you're putting in bigger orders, you're going to pay less as a maker fee. See, we're at 0.15 versus 0.25. So depending on how much you're trading can make a difference in terms of each pricing tier, and that would be for each individual trade. So you can see, like, wow, if I have whatever, $100 million laying around, say $55 million laying around, and I want to buy crypto, I'm for a maker, I'm at 0, and that's nice, and at 0.1 for a taker fee. So if you got your millions, be aware of those kind of fee schedules. Sometimes instead of like maker and taker fees, you might see a spread type fee. And you see that sometimes with brokers, like eToro. This example is from the eToro site. And they're a very internationally known, broker site that's around the world. Robinhood, for example, is very, very common and familiar with in the United States. eToro would be something that'd be more worldwide. And they would, basically charge you a fee based on the spread. And what you'll see when you're trading is you'll see a buy price and a sell price, right? And the difference between those two prices, and they're different slightly, is the spread. That's called the spread. And the spread basically contains that part that's the commission for your broker, in this case eToro, which will charge you for the trade, right? So if, for example, you're buying a particular cryptocurrency and it's at 40, whatever your currency number, dollars, rupees, whatever, it's at 40. And the sell price at the moment is at 39.25. Well, the spread is the difference between the two, commonly known as pips, by the way. It's 75 pips, or 1.9% is also a very common way to look at it. So thus, if you bought $500 worth, the spread fee would be $9.50. But you wouldn't have a maker or taker fee on top of that, at least with eToro. So that's, again, where you want to look at the fees and what you're getting charged and what are combinations, what might not be. So this is another way that they could do fees. So you could say, like, oh, eToro doesn't have trading fees. They don't have maker-taker fees. They might even promote themselves that way. But everybody gets paid somehow in the end, and how they're paid is through a spread or a spread-based fee. Other fees that you really want to be aware of, and they can really eat away, is exchange fees, just general fees that for the exchange operations, and depending on the currency of the coins you're exchanging, they vary. They might charge you a higher fee for certain currencies you're bringing in versus other currencies where you're trading. So just be aware there's different fees around that. And then also there can be deposit and withdrawal fees. And this is the fee to deposit or withdraw funds from the exchange. It's usually cheaper to deposit, might even be free to deposit. I mean, they kind of want your money to come in, but they don't necessarily want your money to go out. So they might charge you a fee to withdraw. So before you put money in, look at the deposit withdrawal fees. And some might be allowing you deposits through credit cards. Some might not allow it at all. And if they do allow credit card transactions, that's usually an area where if you're going to make your initial buy and put it on a credit card, they're going to probably charge you a higher fee. So just be aware of that. So there's a good source for that, a good, real quick, easy, quick fee comparison tool on CoinTracker. They keep it updated. They use like the same original blog from like 2019 or something, but it's continually updated. So even if you use this link, it should be updated, pretty frequently within, a month or two, maybe a little longer. But they keep it pretty quick, pretty updated. That if you want to take a quick look, overall fees to compare. But you still got to do your due diligence. And when you look at an exchange, maybe you narrow it down to 2 or 3 exchanges, 1 or 2, let's say 2, then you really want to compare the two in greater detail, not only in fees, which is very important, but also certainly in terms of the user interface and would you enjoy using that platform. You can always change your mind later, but understand there might be fees around all that stuff, particularly like withdrawal fees if you change your mind later. So making a good choice up front and being aware of fees and all these other key things that we talked about in the beginning. Country that you live in, the fiat money you use, so important. Look at those as well. Very, very important.